All right, let me. You guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
So Chase just comes in as XenTegra. I assume that was Chase.
It is.
Now, reconfirm when people come in, they'll come in muted and they can't speak. So you just have to put questions in the chat.
I came in as not a panelist and I did not come in muted. Just a heads up there.
You came in as a guest, you said?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess people can talk. So do we know if every panelist can mute people? Because if people start talking or background noise, you guys can help keep that under control with me.
Tori, you're showing up as a panelist. We do have attendees on the line as well.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Okay.
Is my chat window showing up with you guys as well? Or just showing my, okay, good. All right, well, cool. Maybe I can keep that chat over here in case I see something pop up. For those that are joining, thank you. We're going to start in just a few minutes. Give everybody time to join in. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes, everyone. I see our attendee list is growing, so we'll give them just a couple of minutes and we'll get started. Thanks for standing by. All right, thanks everyone for attending. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oops, I got back to one. Apologies there. Get my screen correct. There we go. All right, let me get this kicked off. Thanks, everyone. I'm Fred Reynolds. I lead our Modern Apps practice here at XenTegra. Thank you for attending our webinar of the Modern Application series that we're doing. Today's topic is going to be Achieving ServiceNow Excellence, Empowering Efficiency and ROI through Digital Adoption Strategies. Today's panelists, we have with us Greg George. He's a Senior Vice President of Global Sales and Partnerships at Apti. Hannah Silos, a Senior Commercial Account Executive with ServiceNow. Again, I'm Fred Reynolds, President of Modern Applications here at XenTegra, and our Senior ServiceNow Consultant is Kristen McDonald. Today, you guys have a chance to win $50 with an Amazon gift card for just doing something very simple. If you can just count how many times that we use the word value or see the word value today, then at the end, we're going to take note, give you a chance to respond and put your guest, or if you're really counting ticks, then you'll probably get it right. Put it in there and we'll select a winner and get back to you at the very end or by the end of the day. First, I want to start with who XenTegra is. So XenTegra is a value-added reseller, and as our founder and CEO, Andy would tell you, we're a VAR 2.0. The reason why XenTegra was started over 10 years ago, Andy really saw the need of a partner and the partner community really providing value to the customers. He was a former SC and a really good one for Citrix, and he just kept seeing that the partners were not delivering to the customers on the implementation and consulting services. So he started XenTegra to address that space. Since then, we've gone into many marketplaces, added a lot more vendors to our portfolio. And again, to add the value to our customers is what he was aiming for. We do that through a series of events that we do live. We do 3 live events a week. If you're not familiar with XenTegra, so we're out there doing a lot of events, baseball games, bowling, bourbon and blazers. We have a lot of events, and the purpose of that is not just to get out, socialize, and have a good time. That is fun, but it's also to bring our vendors and our customers together, and our customers with our customers, because with that, you have great tech talk, great conversations about maybe some of the challenges you're having and ways that we can help work together to solve those as a community. I like the way Andy puts it a lot. We're building a community that really helps our community and serves our community. XenTegra provides value to our customers also through our consulting services. We have a full array of managed services. We manage things and host things. We also provide managed services of managing your own premise technologies and solutions. We provide an array of complementary assessments, including ones for ServiceNow, so that we can also understand your environment and help and provide consulting services to you to help you better position those within your company. So that's what we are here at XenTegra. I believed in Andy's vision so much for XenTegra that I left my enterprise job after 26.5 years to come to XenTegra to help further build out this modern apps practice. So I took a chance to come in here, not really so much of a chance. His beliefs in what we're doing here as a value-added reseller was just very powerful to me. I actually sat in the seat as a customer of ServiceNow and many other applications, and I also desired a partner that can help me, further develop out what I was building at the company I was at. So with that, I want to turn it over and introduce Hannah. Hannah, if you can introduce yourself and maybe a quick introduction into ServiceNow, the platform.
Hi, sure. Thanks, Fred. It's great to be with everyone. My name's Hannah Silo. I'm an account executive at ServiceNow. I've been in enterprise service management for about a decade and have specifically been helping customers to buy and implement ServiceNow for about 3 years. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to ServiceNow. It's the platform for digital business. So years ago, what started as an IT service management solution back in the early 2000s, some of you might know it as that, has fully transformed to be the leading workflow company for the enterprise. So ServiceNow has been helping companies of all sizes and all industries accelerate digital transformation with our platform for digital business for about 20 years. So by listening to our customers and through our deep technical and industry expertise, we continue to see tremendous growth in our employee and our customers, and just over 80% of the Fortune 500 trust us to help them navigate the markets and drive their business forward. We also have a tremendous ecosystem of partners like XenTegra and Apti that continue to help our customers accelerate their success. So why do we do what we do, and how are we shaping our approach to transformation? So our customers are faced with challenges like digital sprawl being not just the tons of data that are sitting across a number of different systems and vendors that they're using, but then it's also hard to connect all of that data. So how do you connect processes that don't just affect one department or one group? How do you connect, process, and move work efficiently across the enterprise? How do you deliver true scale with speed and agility? And finally, business risk is on the top of everyone's mind, and we hear this constantly. There are tons of different ways and types of risks: security risk, administrative risk, compliance risk, regulatory if you're in a highly regulated industry. There's also ESG, which impacts more than just your company. It's your entire ecosystem, your value chain, and much more. So with ServiceNow, you can grow your top line and protect the bottom line and everything in between, because at the heart of it, ServiceNow empowers you to do three things. So we provide a simplified experience. For example, a mobile experience. We want to give our end users the consumer-like experience they expect, whether that's as a new employee being onboarded to the company or a vendor submitting a request. So we help our customers drive purposeful automation. This is our ability to create an actual workflow. So we create the opportunity for work to move across the organization. Again, take that onboarding or employee experience. We help that same request get to finance, HR, IT, wherever else it may need to go with seamless AI. And then lastly, we bring organizational agility. So with our single data model platform, you can connect systems that might be involved in the onboarding experience like Workday, SAP, and ServiceNow to create new efficiencies across teams. So ServiceNow is the intelligent platform for end-to-end digital transformation, if you weren't catching on to that yet. So our customers are able to deliver this type of transformation because they are using ServiceNow. And any company of any size across any industry can accelerate transformation anywhere within or across their business and ecosystems with this platform. We focus our solutions on the key areas of every business. So you can see that here as customer workflows, industry workflows, employee technology, and much more. So from the bottom, you can see all of the third-party systems of record that our customers are using and can continue to use. So we just give you a better way to use them. ServiceNow isn't trying to replace your other tools. It's designed to connect your tools and be the system of action rather than the system of record. So this slide, I know, is a little bit of an eye chart, but it truly shows all of the solutions that ServiceNow offers. Most of our customers are starting on the left side here in technology workflows and expanding from there. As you can see, you can do so much with ServiceNow. You can all but do your laundry with ServiceNow, but unless you have a good strategy for implementation and maintenance, it's difficult to really ensure you're getting the return on the investment from such a robust platform. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg to talk about Apti and how they're helping customers to quickly realize the value of their software investments like ServiceNow.
Thank you, Hannah, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're joining from. So I'm excited to be here with everyone today and joining both XenTegra and ServiceNow. We are really excited about the combination of our technologies working together and our services to make this a win-win for a lot of our customers and partners. From a high level, I lead sales and channel here at Apti, and we are a digital adoption platform that really helps companies realize and maximize the value that they're expecting out of enterprise software like ServiceNow or Workday or Salesforce. And what we see is that the combination of partners like XenTegra and technology like ServiceNow, we're able to put Apti behind that and on top of that, rather, just to be able to help the users and the leadership drive better process compliance, increase data accuracy, shorten times for onboarding and job changes and things of that nature, and really drive adoption at scale without having to sit in classrooms and watch hours of videos and things of that nature that really can be a mundane waste of time in a lot of cases. So excited to talk to you guys today, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Hannah, for both of that. It's great to partner with you guys. At this time, I'm going to introduce Kristen McDonald, or Kristen can introduce herself, and we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of what this is all about. So, Kristen, thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. So I have been implementing ServiceNow solutions since the Aspen release. ServiceNow does name each of their releases after a city. We are now moving into the Vancouver release. So you can see it's been quite a long time, about 12 or 13 years. over those 12 or 13 years, there are definitely challenges with certain implementations. You need to make sure you've got a good, solid partner, someone with experience implementing ServiceNow so that they can guide you through some of those challenges. But you can see some of the key challenges that we see repeatable or repeating through implementations right here on the screen. So first and foremost, one of the biggest challenges to impeding success has to do with resistance to change. Not every team likes to change their tool sets. It's difficult sometimes to retrain teams, and you do find individual resistance, you find resistance within teams. You do have to take that time to complete the training and bridge that skill set gap there, something that Greg was speaking about earlier. So that is one of the key challenges that we do see with ServiceNow implementations. In addition, a lack of process standardization and efficiency improvements would be another area. Just because you're implementing a new technical tool set, that doesn't mean your old processes are still viable. So when you're implementing something like ServiceNow, you definitely want to take a step back, take a look at those processes and say, okay, does this fit our new paradigm? Or do we really need a process change here to go along with this new technology change? In addition, you're going to see lack of integrations into existing systems as a common challenge that we see. This is going to result in swivel seating between systems. It could result in data being out of sync between the systems of record. ServiceNow does have quite advanced integration capabilities. So we definitely want to take a look at where integration makes sense in that initial implementation. Next, I would say short-sighted requirements are definitely a challenge. A lot of times when we're implementing a new tool set for a customer, we hear, we want to make this just like the old tool set. The old tool set did it this way. We want ServiceNow to do it the exact same way, so we don't have to retrain our team. But by doing that, you're not really taking advantage of all of the optimizations and efficiencies that are built into the ServiceNow platform. So again, you really have to take a look at your processes and how you're doing things as you're doing these implementations. So that in essence will result in revenue loss and diminished ROI. So those are some of the key challenges that we see as we're implementing.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristen.
Yes.
Yeah, so to go along with what Kristen said, I think it's important that there's multiple analysts and folks in that community that talk about the many transformations that are going in the marketplace, and over 70, sometimes 80% of those fail. And that is wildly unfortunate. But the reality is that when you're rolling out these big enterprise systems across thousands of employees, there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled. Doesn't mean that the technology is bad or the partner is bad. It just means that there's a lot of things in the technology that users need to be able to do in order to do their day-to-day job functions. And really, without a solution like a digital adoption platform, it's hard to scale that mind share and the knowledge needed to be able to execute all those key job responsibilities. And with that being said, digital adoption plays a huge role in these implementations in order to prevent the failure, which is seen so often. To name a few, I've alluded to them earlier, but being able to improve the employee experience is huge. There's nothing worse than to get into a new system and realize that you don't know what to do or how to do it. And, you want to blame your boss and you blame the technology, and, ultimately it's an enablement issue. So digital adoption can support that in many ways. The training and onboarding piece is kind of a given where, new users are in the system or somebody is changing from one job to the other, being able to get help when you need it, not necessarily in the classroom when you're not really sure what you're going to need to know. Process standardization is huge in a world where, you might have multiple applications involved in a process and dozens of steps, really understanding where to go and when to go. And, without going to the wrong order or the wrong process to do a certain job in your day-to-day is really important. In addition to that, the data accuracy piece, having a digital adoption solution on top of something like ServiceNow can help increase data accuracy by 80 or 90%. Validations and workflow rules that will prevent you from
Absolutely. So now that we've talked through the value of digital adoption in general, what do we see in terms of ServiceNow adoption and the challenges that we're facing there? So there are a few kind of key things we see with ServiceNow implementations. First and foremost, a lack of buy-in, whether that's on the leadership side or in the actual teams that are in the trenches doing the work. When you have a lack of buy-in there, that can definitely be a hindrance to adoption there. Inadequate training and onboarding, as Greg mentioned, that is a key area that Apti is actually quite well suited to address. But without that training and the onboarding of your users, they really can struggle at times walking through new processes, new tool sets. They don't always know where to go to do their work. So that's definitely a roadblock we want to clear for.
And Kristen, yeah,
Yes.
and I just want to add, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was hoping to come at the end of that, but I just want to say this is one of the most valuable things I saw as being a customer of ServiceNow, as running the big platform with 1,800 users. This right here is a way for you to build this from the beginning, the onset of building out your ServiceNow implementation, build the training that's part of the education, part of the knowledge articles, how this all works together, so that once you've done it, it's always there at the fingertips. If someone has a question, they can just go in and look for it. The use of virtual agents, use of Apti, you can go in and find this stuff pretty immediately, and the walkthrough capabilities of Apti. So probably getting more into some of the solution, but again, this is such a valuable thing. When I first saw what Apti was doing, I was like, man, I needed that like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, but it's relevant today. And for those that may be asking questions, I'd like for us to move through our presentation, and we'll have room at the end to ask questions if we didn't answer what you were looking for. So thank you. Okay, continue, Kristen.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so just a couple more challenges that we have seen with adoption of the ServiceNow platform. multiple systems of record there. So we did talk about the integration capabilities of ServiceNow, which are quite extensive actually. But here we're really talking about those spreadsheets that everybody has on their desk, you know, that little smart sheet application that's off over here in siloed, that's not integrated with the platform, and just having these multiple pieces here and there that individuals are using and not really taking those to the system of record. So that is that piece. Next, we do have process or platform complexities, and sometimes those complexities are definitely required. But if you don't have a solid training tool set on top of some complex workflow, at times that can definitely come into play with hindering of that adoption process. So we definitely want to simplify as much as possible with ServiceNow implementations. We like to utilize out of box as much as we can. And that comes with certain benefits because you've got standardization across the platform, but you're always going to have at least some things that are complex within the platform because it's the nature of business, right? And so all of those things just kind of add up to a lack of clear communication and guidance, and really a lack of adoption across the platform. And you're just not getting those ROIs that you're expecting out of this investment. So, yeah. All right, that being said, we're going to go straight into use cases. So this is, for me, the fun part of the whole thing, because this is where we get to talk about how we can actually utilize this in a real world platform and real world use cases. So on the next slide, you're going to see one of the key features of Apti, which is the analytics piece. We're not going to go into detail on that right here. Greg's actually going to take us through a few of the analytics features towards the end of the use case discussion. But we can't get into use cases without talking about analytics. It is one of those key features and powerhouse features of the Apti platform. So that is number one. Number two has to do with the announcements feature. So this is one of my favorite features of Apti. I think it's a very useful but maybe underrated feature of the platform. So these announcements can be pop-ups that show up for specific user groups. They can show up when the user logs into the system, when they go into certain areas of ServiceNow. So even though it seems fairly simple, you can actually utilize these in quite a few different ways. So one of the areas I think every ServiceNow customer could utilize for the announcements has to do with upgrades. We are upgrading the platform twice a year, and with that comes new features, new functionality that users may not be aware of. So you can use these announcements to kind of pre-announce the upcoming upgrades. You can guide the users to videos that talk them through some of the new features that are upcoming. You can really get excitement around the upcoming features and rollouts through using some of these announcements. So I think that is one of the really nice features of Apti. On the next slide here, you're going to see we can also schedule those announcements, and that actually takes it to a whole new level, because how many times do you have to go track down users and say, get your time cards in, right? Or, hey, it's Friday, I need your status report. You don't have to do that anymore. We can set up these announcements on a timed basis for certain segments of users or user groups and say, hey, pop up when they enter the system, or pop up at 4:30 on a Friday and say, hey, I haven't gotten your time card. You need to get this in. Hey, I need your status report. Go ahead and get this in. So no more tracking down users for those things. You can also do these for annual HR type events. So do you have to get a signature on your employee handbook every year? Do you have to send your users through IT security training every year? Every company does. So this is a way to get that announcement out to users to trigger and notify them that it's time for these events, and just click here to go do the action. So that covers announcements. And now we're getting to maybe next to analytics, one of my absolute favorite features of the Apti ServiceNow partnership here. So Apti has the capability to not just walk users through ServiceNow features and functionality, but it can actually do cross-platform workflows, which is incredibly powerful. So if you've got an onboarding process that goes from Salesforce into ServiceNow and crosses platforms, Appy can trigger in Salesforce and walk the user through that portion and keep carrying on as they move into ServiceNow. So why is this so powerful? I want to walk you through a use case that pertains to an IT help desk engineer. So let's put on our help desk caps and say we're a tier 1 engineer. We get a support ticket from a user. That user says, hey, I'm having issues with my device. I need some help. And let's say we've got playbooks set up in ServiceNow, which is another great feature. So this tier 1 engineer sees, oh, there's a playbook available for this type of ticket. I'm going to kick that off. And ServiceNow starts walking them through the troubleshooting steps for this type of ticket. Well, they walk through the basic troubleshooting steps and there's still an issue. They have not resolved it. So what's the next step? Well, ServiceNow knows that this user has an iGel device. How does it know that? Because you've taken the steps to keep your CMDB up to date and accurate. So all of that information is stored within the platform. So because ServiceNow knows you have an iGel device, it can recommend the next step for troubleshooting as kicking off an Appy workflow that's going to take you over to UMS to actually troubleshoot and resolve that user's ticket over there. So by clicking off the Appy workflow in ServiceNow, it can take you all the way over to the UMS platform, walk you through. It can even click the buttons for your engineer. So now your tier 1 engineer just became a tier 2 engineer without any training whatsoever. That is powerful. So that's my favorite feature of the platform for obvious reason. If we move on, Fred, I think we can go ahead and skip 2 slides here.
Okay.
Yep. And so I think with some of these use cases, you guys can see where we can benefit throughout some of the different modules. We just talked through an incident management use case. Same thing could apply to service request management. You get a request for a new profile, the workflow can take you again over to UMS or whatever other system that you're using. As long as it's cloud-based, web-based, we can cross over and do some of those workflows with the Appy toolset. So that covers incident service. Same thing with change management. As you're walking through multiple platforms, it can walk you through those steps. Appy also has checklists. So if you're performing a change, maybe you have a standard checklist you need to just run through and make sure everything's hunky-dory after you make your change. Do your validation checklist before you actually wrap up that implementation. And of course, CMDB and asset management, another area where often we cross platforms. So I think you can see some of the ways in which you can use Appy with some of these top ServiceNow modules. So in terms of value, our keyword today, there are quite a few efficiencies that you can gain just by implementing ServiceNow. But we're here to talk about that cross platform and that partnership between Appy and ServiceNow and how you can really supercharge those efficiencies. So on that note, I'm going to hand it off to Greg to talk through some of our analytics pieces.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the outputs from an Appy point of view. Just a quick primer on what Kristen was doing a minute ago, but Appy essentially sits on top of the user interface as a user is interacting with a system, and they can immediately just trigger that the Appy widget to get help at the moment of need. And based on that, the users are interacting with the interface and clicking on certain parts of the system and certain elements and inputting data. And because Appy is an overlay of that experience, that data is collected into meaningful, buckets of information. And then we're able to tell a little bit of a story about that in terms of how your users are engaging, how maybe they're not engaging with certain parts of your environment. And in return, you're able to really help develop SOPs, direct users in the ways that you want them to go instead of the way that they want to go. And this data gives you a good output. So once your users are in the system, you're able to see on the back end where they're going and what they're doing. And what you see here is a screenshot of the holistic kind of engagement, which is a user view of everyone in the system. And you can see how many there were, how many times they were in there, and how long that they're staying in a particular system. You can see at the bottom what regions they're in and then what types of devices they're in. There is more data below that in terms of what's available on the screen, but lots of insight as to what those users are doing and how long they're spending in the system. The next slide, I believe, is going to be the processes. So what you're seeing here is essentially, if you think about a book of SOPs, you've got your certain processes that your organization has rolled out. And then within this list, you can see all the different activities and processes that your users are engaging with. And in this example, you've got click all process is average of 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and there's 142 users engaged in that process. You can really drill down and see how effective was that. And if you know that process should take 2 minutes, then you've got a problem. If it's taken 4 minutes, you can really get under the hood and figure out, is our process broken? Is our technology misconfigured, or should we do more training, et cetera? So it gives you a high level view of those substantial, significant processes and how you can address the time in which people are spending on those processes. And if you go to the next slide, once you drill down another level, this bar chart you see at the bottom is actually 8 different steps within a process. And you can see easily here in this view that the first 3 steps, the users have done pretty well. You start to see a fall off after step 3 all the way down to step 8, which is, getting to the halfway mark. In this example, you could really understand that if you have an 8-step process within ServiceNow or in any other system, you can really see where in the process those users are breaking down. It could be, as I said, a system issue. It could be a training problem. It could be a configuration of the system issue. It's hard to say until you actually drill down on that. What you're able to see at the top is the user categories, management, HR, managers or admins, approvers, et cetera. And based on their profile in ServiceNow or other systems, you're able to see buckets of users and how they're engaging as a team into those certain processes. So it helps you drill down to say, the finance team is doing a really good job. The sales team is really not doing a good job. So we need to spend more time focused on the sales team in that example. So that gives you a view into the individual processes and how they're moving through those processes step by step. And we can go on to the next slide, if you don't mind. This is a GIF, so it's not, let's see if it's going to work here. There we go. So from a business point of view, once you understand the processes to build, you've got those deployed for Apti. What you can do from the business point of view is to set goals within the organization to benchmark progress on adoption. So unfortunately, this is not working. That's a good stop. There we go. So essentially what you're able to do is to set up a goal and a benchmark on a certain process and say, at this moment, we are doing this 50% right. But by the end of the quarter, we want to do it 90% right. So you can continuously monitor progress on adoption of those processes through this goals screen here, and be able to see exactly how your employees and your teams are doing with the new processes, how they're continuing to trend, up or down. And if you see them starting to go the wrong direction, you can simply set up some tracking to figure out where those users are over time as far as engagement and accuracy of the processes in question. So when you're trying to justify the value, the ROI, your holistic adoption strategy, and really understand, is our adoption working or is it not? And, how do we leverage partners like XenTegra to make sure this goes in the right direction? You're really able to see from an analytical data point of view how the users are doing. Are they doing it well, not so well? And really just continue to monitor how that's going from a trend point of view. So when it comes time to renew or increase spend on a certain software, you really understand that the users are maximizing the value or maybe not, and then figure out if you need to make a decision to, do better or change solutions or whatever the case might be. So that's a huge factor and a huge, play for us here in this space, is to be able to give our customers the ability to monitor things like their adoption at scale. So we can move on. There we go.
Absolutely. So just continuing on the theme of making sure you're tracking and measuring to make sure you're meeting your ROI and identify areas where you need to improve. First and foremost, you have to make sure you identify the correct metrics, right? So a partner like XenTegra can help you through that process. We can guide you through that. But what you're seeing here is just a few kind of key metrics, things that we see that are pretty standard across organizations. So some of the key metrics might include things like productivity, reduced incident resolution time, enhanced service availability, things like that. Process compliance and standardization, increases in team skill sets, competencies, and efficiencies, and of course, the big question of the ROI that's actually being gained here. So again, a partner can help you walk through some of those metrics, but those are some of the key ones that we see with these implementations. On the next slide, we're talking through the maturity process. So just like any implementation, you're not going to start off with every single feature implemented across every single platform, right? We do recommend a phased approach. That is pretty much industry standard with any type of software or technology implementation these days. So with phase one, it's really about awareness. You're implementing your digital adoption platform on your first software, the one that you think will have the highest impact to your business. And then as we progress through phase two, phase three, phase four, we're really rolling that software out to additional high impact platforms until in phase four, you've got it rolled out across your enterprise. As we're moving through those phases, we are relying on the data analytics and the information that's being returned by that digital adoption platform for continual improvement processes to identify areas that we need to focus on for those improvements. So that's the maturity scale. Again, you're going to see that with pretty much any technical implementation. Start with a small, high impact implementation and really build it from there. So that brings into question the keyword of the day, value. What is the value you're getting from implementing these two platforms together? So I think from the use cases and the features and the challenges and how Apti and ServiceNow together can solve some of those challenges, I think it's pretty easy to see how much value can be gained by implementing these two solutions together. And XenTegra, of course, is here to guide you through that process and make sure that you realize that value. So that's it.
Thank you, Kristen. So before we get into questions real quick, I think we did a great job right on time. We have about 3 minutes left in this webinar. So I'm going to come back to that. So maybe Kristen, Greg, maybe you can look in the questions box and see if you want to pick one out to speak to, because I don't think we can open up the mics. So take a look at that. And while they do that, I want to make sure you guys have a chance to enter in to win that $50 Amazon gift card. So how many times did you see the word value through this presentation? And that stops now. So if you want to tally up your how many times you think you saw value and put that into the chat, we'll come back and award that gift to you guys and contact you. So I'll pop back over to questions real quick. Kristen, George, did you guys have any questions to address?
There's a few good ones in there. Kristen, you want to go?
Absolutely. So actually, Fred, I think some of these would be best answered by you, given your history and your experience, particularly that first one. So considering the dynamic nature of the IT landscape, how can organizations continuously align ServiceNow with their overall digital transformation strategy? And what role does digital adoption play in this ongoing alignment process?
That's a great question. It really is. And I would definitely say, and sorry, that's why I messed your slide up there earlier, Greg, trying to look over the question. So that's why I steered away from it. But anyway, being how dynamic the landscape is these days, first of all, I know that one thing that I did was do a real good job of application mapping applications that I was using within the enterprise to ServiceNow. And then with that adoption question, that is the key that I saw was the fact that how do I get my users to adopt to the changes? Change is always going to happen. People are resistant to that. We went through several projects, and every project started with a workshop and a discovery of what are we doing today? What can we do out of the box? let's try to meet in the middle, but steer as close to out of the box as possible. I know it's a constant work putting in a mega platform like ServiceNow, working with C-levels and trying to position that ROI. It's difficult at times because a lot of the work you have to value is how do you automate someone's work activities? How do you gain that efficiency by doing that automation? And that's where the justification comes in. And in order to really obtain that ROI, you really have to put something in place that measures that. The great thing about Apti is all the statistics and the analytics you get from that. It actually can measure and track you from end to end. Are you seeing that value? So again, I think that's the, how do we go across the constant change that we see across that digital transformation is, first of all, look at your landscape, see how you can map those applications, those solutions to your larger plans of which ones you're using. I mean, it could be ServiceNow and Salesforce are the two you're going with, or ServiceNow and SAP. How do you map your applications of that? How do you make sure you're adopting and addressing your challenges to get that ROI? That was a windy one, but there's a lot there.
Good one. Chris,
All right.
I think this one's right up your alley here. So in a multi-departmental or global enterprise setting, how can ServiceNow be integrated and adopted uniformly to ensure consistent efficiency gains across the organization?
So the nature of the ServiceNow platform makes it consistent and uniform, which is the beauty of ServiceNow, because you've got standardized tasks, you've got standardized workflows and notifications, you've got standardized reporting and dashboards. So all of this comes out of box with the platform. And regardless of the application or module that you're in, or the application or modules that you purchase, you get all of this core functionality, and it is standard across the platform. The forms look the same, the lists look the same, the reports look the same, even though it may be in a different context. So as your IT users, for example, are switching between help desk and service request management and project management, and maybe even agile development processes, it's going to be a familiar interface for them. And the way that tasks move through processes, the way notifications are triggered, and all of that is just naturally standardized out of box. I would say you definitely want to take a look at your processes as you're implementing to make sure that those are also being standardized as you're standardizing the technology. So I think we hit on that just a little bit, but particularly areas where you have touch points that cross over, like onboarding and offboarding workflows are a perfect example. That's something we hear a lot. As you get new users or new employees onboarded to your company, they have to go through HR, they have to go through IT to get their equipment set up. So those are areas where you're crossing over, and you want to make sure the workflows have a seamless transition. And ServiceNow actually does have out-of-box solutions for a lot of those areas, which is quite nice. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I see we're at time if we're going to try to keep this to 45 minutes, a little bit over, but thank you guys for everybody getting your vote there. I guess my final thought, and I want to make sure Greg and Kristen has one as well. Once you guys know we're here for you, reach out to us on LinkedIn. There's so many modes of communication. Email me. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can start off that way. If you don't know me, I'll be happy to meet with you guys and hopefully help you solve some of your issues that you're facing and tell you more about XenTegra and our partnership with Apti and ServiceNow. Greg, any final thoughts from you?
Thank you for including us today, XenTegra team. Excited to be here. Hopefully this was helpful, and same for Fred. Please reach out on LinkedIn. Anybody wants to email, it's greg.george@apti.io. If there's any questions, I can get you in touch with the right folks on our team. And we look forward to hearing from you and working with the XenTegra team and the ServiceNow team as well. So have a great day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Greg. Kristen, any final thoughts from you?
No, I think we covered.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, it's fred.reynolds and it's kristen.mcdonald@XenTegra.com if you want to reach out through email as well. Thank you guys for all participating. I hope you guys found value in this webinar. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.